Welcome to Life Passages, The Soul's Journey. I'm your host, Nancy Bloom, and the title of our episode today is Standing for Standing Rock. We could say Standing with Standing Rock. And so my guests are Aaron Ortega, who just got back from Standing Rock in North Dakota, and Danny Wapepa and Joanne Wapepa. And so welcome all of you. You've all been there. And you most recently. Would you like to share the essence of what Standing Rock is in a nutshell, and then your experience there, maybe what's happening there recently? I know it changes week to week, moment to moment.
Yeah, it changes. Those of us that have been going over there and supporting that for the last 6 to 8 months, if we're fortunate enough to be able to go, we're all saying that it's always a great time to go. It's always an important time to go, and it's always a really horrible time to leave.
Leave there.
It's a tough time to leave there.
And because, what is the difficulty of leaving?
Yeah, I think for anybody who goes there, whether they be native or non-native, but especially for native people who go there, because it's a very important time in our history, whether you're here from North America or South America, or whether you're from the islands. It's a very important time with so many tribes that are gathering. We haven't had that kind of gathering of all of the tribes and of the 7 council fires for a long time, hundreds of years. So to participate in that feels as though you're walking around in a prayer that happened 7 generations ago.
Wow!
So when you feel that essence there, when you feel all the love and the dedication and the ceremony that's going on constantly there. That camp is a prayer ceremony right now. That whole camp and all of its activities are, to most of us, it is a ceremony. So you're there in that the whole time. And
so from the moment you arrive to the moment
from
you
the
leave,
moment you're there.
Maybe you carry it with you, or it goes with you when you leave.
That's right. And to bring it home, we've supported a lot of people who have gone there. We've supported a lot of people who've come home and since been home. It's tough for them integrating coming home, because you're still in that ceremonial way. You're still carrying all that medicine, and as well as some of the trauma that's going on. It's an excruciatingly enlightening place to be right now.
Wow. And maybe carrying your own trauma if you encounter that there, and then the trauma of those around you being impacted.
That's right.
And maybe ancestral trauma, who knows?
That's right.
Maybe that gets heightened.
All of it. And there's a lot of healing taking place there too from people who've had that the generational trauma. There's a lot of healing taking places there as well. And there's a lot of room for reliving some of that too. There's a lot of Native people who have been surviving that kind of treatment for a long time. And so for some of them, it's not new to them. It's intensified, and they're doing it in this new place. Yeah, with so many other tribes and peoples coming together. So
must be such an amazing experience, having maybe been on the barricades or the front lines in a lonely way before, and now having support.
Yeah. So it was challenging for us in the actions that we were involved in, but even more so for some of our nieces and nephews here, like Joanne, who stood in freezing cold water and endured mace while they were approaching and staying in a way, defending in a very nonviolent way our boundary there, where we were looking to that sacred site where she stood and took that kind of abuse from a militarized force. Yeah. So a lot of varying levels of trauma and successes and small victories and yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. How do you say it's been growing you, this process?
I don't know that I could actually answer that right now. That's
It's
a very good question. It makes me look at all the varying levels of what's happening over there with militarization. There's a private corporation on treaty land right now that has privatized military using a county and state law enforcement on a project that has been kind of sneaked through permit processes using legal jargon, who have desecrated sacred sites that keep encroaching towards us with barbed wire and threat of eviction. And so, you know, I look at that and I wonder, well, if that can happen there, that could happen here at home. And there's pipelines here that are proposed at home.
Exactly. We have our own standing rocks that are looming.
So that makes a big shift for me about, okay, how do I want to be here at home? How do I want to start communicating here at home?
Beautiful.
About
Thank
that,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. And someone was pointing out also that the Winnemem Wintu are dealing with the whole design of the intention to maybe the Army Corps, I don't know, to flood Mount Shasta Lake higher, which would take and just destroy a lot of their sacred sites.
We're just hoping that this brings an awakening again.
Yes, well said. Talk
like
about
this is this is phase one.
Right. Okay.
Like this is this is when everybody starts getting together, and it's a huge awakening, and that's what we're seeing it as. It's a revolution where we're starting to actually take care of our planet, because we don't have many resources left. We can't continue this for long, and people don't understand that this is this is for clean energy, and this is supposed to be the turnaround, and that's what Standing Rock is for. It's not just about that pipeline. We're always going to have to interfere with pipelines. It's about clean energy becoming prominent finally, because we only have a finite amount of oil.
Right, and we only have a finite amount of time to turn things around, I think, so that our waters are protected and our air is clean to breathe.
Actually, we're at a crucial moment right now, because we are at over 400 parts per million in our atmosphere. We should have stopped at 200.
400 parts per million of what?
Carbon particulates in our atmosphere. We should have stopped at 350. That's why they have the 350.org. That's what that's about, you know. And so after that, we already have enough carbon in our atmosphere to bring us up 2 degrees in our temperature, but it's an elastic effect. It's going to take 40 or 50 years to achieve this, you know. So what we have now is we have the fossil fuel industry being bolstered by the President-elect Trump and his policies, which he is actually an investor into this pipeline. And so we want to be able to give our future generations something, you know, and this is a training ground for people how to live right now. So this training ground teaches them how to pray, how to be altruistic, how to think of their future generations. Because the way just like a little ceremony is a prayer for our larger life, our larger life is a prayer for our future generations. How we live is directly related to what they will receive at this point, particularly. If we live in beauty, walk in beauty, they're going to receive that. If we consume their resources, they're going to receive very little. So this is about them, you know.
It's about growing, it sounds like, growing a way of life, of unity, of caring, of standing for those very important things, air and water, that we need to live.
And Bobby Kennedy has a video out there saying that the nuclear cost, what is it, 15 billion per gigawatt for a factory. Oil, natural gas, coal cost 3 billion per gigawatt for the electricity that they produce. And then you have the fuel costs. You have to enrich the uranium, you have to dig out the coal, you have to frack the gas, you know, all that stuff, you know. But if you have a wind or solar farm, that is 2.2 billion per gigawatt to put up, so it's more than competitive. So what we're actually fighting right now is the infrastructure of the oil company.
People that are entrenched in an old way.
Yes.
And I remember hearing Winona LaDuke speak, and she was saying that a lot of because the price of oil has gone down, a lot of the former people that seemed like they were going to use that pipeline are bowing out. Is that right? because it's not worth it to them, or?
There's a large bank out of Norway, DNB, that have sold their assets into the pipeline, which is about 10%, which is less than Wells Fargo, you know, more than Chase, but less than Wells Fargo. There's a huge divestment movement going on right now
so
between,
glad.
The banks, people divesting and going to credit unions, because credit unions actually help our community, not like banks. All our money invested in banks goes out somewhere else, you know, and are used for projects like this, you know. Wells Fargo is investing into our fossil fuel future for 40 or 50 years, because that's the return on this pipeline that they're looking for. 40 or 50 years return on their investment in investing into this pipeline. So they're committing us to that. So they're making decisions for us, and they shouldn't be.
And I heard from somewhere, I can't remember where, that the pipeline, were it to be completed and made, is only really guaranteed or whatever to be safe and viable for 50 years. Then it would tend to break down. Is that true, or
yeah,
what?
there's so many old pipelines going on out there right now. The Ojibwe are fighting a couple pipelines going through, and they're supposed to be replacing old pipelines that have like 900 structural anomalies, what they call them, you know, on this one pipeline, you know. And so they're very old. There's a pipeline underneath the Great Lakes, Mackinac Bridge, so old. If that goes out, the oil floods into all the Great Lakes and poisons all that water. You know, so we're looking at oil as being the enemy of life. So, but
and
water
it's been shown
is
to
life.
be with these oil spills.
Yes, absolutely.
What I have trouble just wrapping my awareness around is some of these pipelines, including the one that people were wanting to make in our area to the sea over by Coos Bay. It sounds like they're pipelines from Canadian product, shipping from Canada to coastal areas to then ship to China. I mean, it almost seems like a foreign invasion. I don't quite understand that.
Well, that's what this one was supposed to do. This was supposed to bring the Bakken oil down to Illinois, where there's a transfer station, and then it would have been shipped down to Texas, Corpus Christi, down in Texas,
and then out to China
for cheaper than what we import fuel for.
Yeah.
You know, and so it doesn't help the American infrastructure at all.
Or American people. I mean, they're not getting anything from it
This is a
except
private
trash
corporation
environment.
that's putting this pipeline through.
What?
A private corporation that's putting this pipeline through. So this is billionaires getting richer off of the backs of the Native Americans once again. And if you look at the history of the energy policies in America, all of our energy policies, the Native Americans have had to shoulder the brunt of the poisoning of the waters and of the land, and being basically their communities destroyed by these energy companies. With false promises of you're going to have schools and you're going to have, you know, infrastructure and all this, but they never appear.
And then, as you said in our earlier show about Standing Rock, that farmers also have been given a raw deal with this, that their land has been taken for it. And
there are 14 or 15 lawsuits by the farmers because the private corporation has claimed eminent domain on their property and taken their property. And only public corporations, according to law, should be allowed to do that.
So only government entities.
Yes.
I see.
Public
so
utility.
this can feel very dire. Now, listening to you earlier, I came to notice that you hold a vision for the future that to me felt heartening. So what can you tell us that despite these dire things that are happening, what can you tell us that might allow us to feel heartened about our future?
Well, it's going to bring this. It's going to bring an awakening. Not just that, but we're really strengthening as a Native people now. We've been divided. The government did it on purpose in putting us on reservations and dividing us as a power, and our culture is taken away. And
That's
now,
true.
you know, people we suffer with drug addiction and alcoholism and broken families because of the loss of our culture. But now we are joining again as a nation, and we're strengthening our bonds, and we're hoping now this can be a step into the next, just the next day and age, you know, the revolution. And it's amazing when you go there and you see that literally nobody's even afraid when you're out there on the front line, when they're macing you, when they have got like their rubber bullets pointing at you, when there's snipers on you. You're not even afraid because you know what you're fighting for is right.
Beautifully said.
And every single sacrifice is in itself something beautiful.
Beautiful. Wow.
And people are, for everybody's water here, there's people, like we were saying, getting PTSD, like coming back, not being able to be around cops or be around crowds even, without feeling uncomfortable. And people are risking their mental health and their stability for water. And it's not even, it's for the water of all people.
Right. It's not just the water of native nations,
no,
but it's for everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And that just shows that we all still have warrior spirits and we're not
That's
broken.
true.
And not just the native people, but the non-natives are also here helping. And this is really the first time that I've seen such camaraderie in between
Beautiful.
natives and non-natives. Like I said, half the camp is non-native.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it seems the warrior spirit is a spirit of protection, of furthering the good for all, and not a warrior spirit of attack.
Yes.
Native terminology of warrior is somebody who battles themselves first.
Beautifully said.
And then they can go out and help the people, because that's what a warrior does. He helps the people.
Right. Lovely. And I know in First Nations tribes there was a great understanding of how to support warriors before going out into an action or coming back, how to help them with the PTSD and so on. So I don't know if in the camps there are some of those ways being brought to the warriors. And so how is that? What's done for them?
I think Aaron can speak to that, because he's been witness to that.
Yeah, so in just being there with Joanne and her crew and some of our nieces and nephews from Ashland and all over, there's been hundreds of people from Oregon that have been there on the front lines and taking that kind of invasive treatment. And so in preparing each day there in the camp is prayer around what kind of actions that we're going to do. And these actions are nonviolent ways to go to our boundaries, to go to these places and face those sacred burial areas and face those people that are working to try and help change that consciousness. So there's a lot of preparation going on with charging people up to be as fiercely gentle and to project their prayers with as much mind and heart power as they can. And then certainly as they came away, Joanne explained and described very vividly the kind of support you get when you are injured on the front line, how we take care of each other. And as you move further back towards the central camp, we have our ways of sweat lodges or inipi, and those ways of helping people with their PTSD. And there were very specific lodges, even some of our medicine people there who were creating these lodges for youth groups that were being injured, so to deal with them just specific to their needs, to their age group, and to the older people, so that way that by the end of the day or the end of a couple of days they were reintegrated back and they were ready to keep living in a really healthy, clear way, free of some of the traumas that they're carrying.
It's beautiful to hear about
and
that.
it's wonderful that we have those ways, and I'm glad that there's a lot of other cultures that could learn from those ways that we've managed to preserve.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's so important in the world.
Yeah.
That hopefully that way can come more to be a resource for our veterans returning as well.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, and it takes that warrior's courage too, and and even the name of your show being kind of a passage orientated thing, life passages. And so when we're going to do a vision quest or a rite of passage or an initiatory experience, you start first with that trauma of whatever's going on in one's life. There's something that's not working.
There's things, which is why someone's reaching for it.
Yeah, and so in our culture right now, I mean, anybody could, a third grader could look at what's going on in the world right now and go, okay, this is not working. This old way of energy and this old way of steel and oil and some of the brutal mechanics of how things are forced onto people all around the globe, it's not working. And it's very outdated. Totally true. So in a way, this is kind of the baggage that we look at when we're looking for something to change in our own life. We all know what it looks like when there's something that's not working in our life.
Yeah, we can feel it. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, he was an old martial art teacher, Izu Shimabuku. He would ask people why they wanted to study martial art. They would say, for self-defense. And he would say, well, which part of yourself do you find that you're having to defend the most? So that's a valid question around this rite of passage,
Right.
about, you know, what's being defended so much. And of course they have to have their own privatized military to get done what they're doing. That's a red flag already.
Right.
So to move to that front line, to experience that right now and to confront that, so that we can move on to this next level of rite of passage or initiation, would then be this kind of descent, which I believe we're all going into right now. There's going to be a lot of sacrifices around our ways of life currently here at home, not just to look at oil, but other things that we're living that keep us out of balance. So this is that initial warrior up place that we're going to confront right now and look at and to determine and say to ourselves, this doesn't work anymore. And then to turn and go into that place that we all need to go into, that descent and threshold, to come out the other end to something new.
Beautiful.
So that's what's going on at Standing Rock right now, I think.
And maybe as we listeners, I'm listening in this moment, people listening to the show will be listening, we can take that in as an invitation to what isn't working internally here.
Exactly.
What do I need to warrior up to in my life?
Right.
And what defend, or how to accord kindliness and caring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know, when you judge someone, you take away their gift.
Oh, so true.
And
oh my goodness.
Everyone comes with a gift. A lot of people are born in this time with a gift for Standing Rock. You know, they're born because Standing Rock was going to happen. They chose to be here for that. We as natives believe that.
They were called into incarnation to be there.
Yes, and so when you judge someone, you take away their gift, you take away their medicine.
So true.
Because
And
everyone
we need
has-
that medicine as a people as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I've loved what I've heard from the First Nations, understanding that we each show up here as newborns with our own unique original medicine, and that nobody else has that but us. And if we don't actualize it, the world is denied it, and we don't live that fullness that we came here to be. So I think it's so true that we need to support one another's beings and gifts, not denigrate, tear down.
Well, we're here bringing a gift, and we all standing in circle.
Yes.
You know, and when we stand in a circle, we're shoulder to shoulder. So nobody's voice is more important than the other because of this gift that we all bring. And we contribute to the circle and make this circle whole because of this gift that we bring. So that's why everyone is standing for the water.
Yes.
Because they're standing in a circle, because water is round. Everything round is sacred. They're standing in the circle around this water, praying for this water, you know, and because they realize that this water is not just water. This water is medicine. If you pray with it, you can change its property. My elders told me that when I was little. And then recently, Dr. Masaru Emoto took photographs and proved that you could change it with your prayer. You know?
And that it then becomes a medicine for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it occurs to me that with good, clear waters, it's a gift to our unborn, to the little ones that will be coming. They need that. That water to be coursing through the body of the mother in a good, clean, healthy way, so they can grow in a good way internally in her body and then come forth in a good, healthy way.
And this water is ultimately recycled through the earth and through the clouds, through the oceans, all this, you know. And so when we pray with that water every morning, we're contributing to the wellness of the earth when we do that for generations. Just like when I sing a song, this song is going to reverberate into the space forever.
That's right.
You know, so I want to have a good heart when I sing this song. So when I pray with this water, I want to have this good heart as well. So we get up and we pray with the water, we thank it, and we ask it to do healings for us, you know, for whatever's ailing for our body, and forever where it's going to be passed on later on as well.
Beautiful. Good to pause and just have a moment of reverence for and love for the waters all throughout this world. Anything more you'd like to say about prayer, how to bring prayer forth in a good way at this time for Standing Rock, for our world, for the waters, for one another, for our families?
Prayer is the unrecognized 50% of what life is, you know, because we live so much without our spirituality because of religion. You know, we've been indoctrinated into a religion. We've given away our spirituality to the churches and to wherever, you know. So if we come in contact with this earth, which is spirituality, this earth is spirituality. Our relationship to the earth is spirituality. And we have to come back in contact with that. Because being separated by the Inquisition, by the industrial lords, by the techno lords, by the breaking of the hoop, and the hoop is the earth, we've been separated from the earth. And the earth is our power. In order to become fully human beings, we need to be a part of this earth and be in relationship with this earth, and that gives us power, because prayer is powerful.
Beautiful. And as we come to the last 2 minutes of our show, I am going to invite all of you viewers to enjoy photographs that were contributed by Stella Starr, who's a photographer and felt guided to go to Standing Rock. And so as we see these photos, we just honor those First Nations people who started this action in Standing Rock. And it was women and youth that started originally, wasn't it?
So it's really
Can you speak about that?
woman-led movement almost. The women are like the ones, like the backbone. And then now the children as well. Like there's people, like the children or women are the strongest force there. And they're really finding their power. And that's something that's very important and very beautiful.
And maybe there's an energy to the presence there because it comes from the women and the children.
Well, we forget that we actually are from a matriarchal society, and sometimes that's forgotten.
Wow,
But
good to remember it.
It's being remembered now.
Excellent. And maybe we, in all cultures, can take a page out of that book, the importance of women as guides and leaders.
Yes.
And the woman's spirit within all of us, within men. We women have a man's spirit in us, men have a women's spirit inside. And maybe it's the compassion and the presence that way. So thank you all for being here. And it's such a rich conversation. It just feels like we're just getting going. Now it's completing. So do we have time for a minute or so, or not so much? Well, pithy little things to end, or just our presence is enough, maybe?
I think it's wonderful what Dan just had to say around prayer and around connecting.
Yes.
Really, it's that reconnecting. There's so many different ways to pray, you know, that we would never suppose to say, well, this is how you do it.
Right.
But there's definitely a way to do it where someone feels like they're resonating and really connecting.
Yes.
And that's what's really
That's
important.
how you know you're there.
And that's why that walk in the woods, that walk in the desert, that swim in the ocean, that swim in the river,
along the stream,
all
sit
those
there.
ways to connect. People know how they feel when they're done with that kind of thing, and it's in that connecting.
Right. Thank
is
you.
What's important.
Yes. So thank you so much for being with us on Life Passages, The Soul's Journey, and wishing you deep connecting in whatever ways sing in your heart and soul. Take care and be well.